So we're moving over to Near Token, which is kind of an Ethereum competitor of sorts, which we've talked about a lot of Ethereum competitors recently. But its token pumped a lot yesterday after two Ethereum competitors teamed up and have their tokens on each other's platforms now. So Near Protocol, which again is kind of like this smart contract platform where you can kind of launch applications and run things on top of it, has now integrated UST, which is a decentralized stablecoin. This means in practice that you're going to be able to move funds from the Luna ecosystem, which we talked about yesterday, onto the Near ecosystem here. And you can have the best of both worlds. You can use the liquidity from the Luna ecosystem, or the Terra ecosystem rather, and move it onto the Near protocol. So again, this is like extremely convoluted, but that's why we got Zach Seward here to kind of break down all these complex topics. Zach, why does it matter that we can have a stable coin from one network move to another?
Because a lot of these networks are fast and easy and cheap to use, and people who have their assets stranded on one might want to use some of these fast upstarts. But it is funny because this is indeed like a fast thing. But again, it's about sort of interoperability, the ability to make sure that your money doesn't get stuck in a particular ecosystem, right? We talk about interoperability and bridging and all these big words, but really it's about, oh shit, how do I make sure that I can get my crypto money off of one network to another network should I want to seize upon an opportunity that I'm seeing on that network? So the more that these bridges and connections exist, the better, the more robust this ecosystem is going to be. And the more likely that this grand vision of mass scale DeFi, all these financial bank-like services that are run by robots on the internet, known as smart contracts, can actually work at scale. So I think this is cool to see. Interesting to see a little bit of momentum around Near. Near was sort of a laggard for sure. They were sort of down in the dumps, and now all of a sudden, Near Foundation announced a new president. This is a major integration with the buzzy Terra ecosystem. Interesting to see if they can actually like get a little momentum here going into 2022 as one of these, Avalanche, Solana, Terra, faster, cheaper proof of stake chains that may be able to, win a little mind share. So yeah, wouldn't have expected this one, but I'm gonna toss it back to you, Will.
Yeah, they also had that huge money dump onto their DeFi ecosystem. It was like $500 million in grants.
I think like 800 or something. Yeah, something really big. Yeah.
Million, so even more, right? So if you want to come build on top of the Near protocol, like there was money to pay you to go and do that. And we saw a lot of other projects did that, like Avalanche did that. I think Solana's done it in the past. And you're totally right. We've seen like this layer one battle going on for the last 4, 5, 6 months, where it's been like Avalanche, Solana, Binance Smart Chain. Near really hasn't been in the conversation. And I think they've been trying to get themselves in that conversation. And we might be seeing that now with them kind of integrating this liquidity, like more tokens can come in, more projects can come in to the Near protocol because there's this door has been opened to move in a stable coin. So I'm kind of expecting to see Near maybe keep going up in the short term and kind of be like the fifth wave of these base layers competing for that third place right behind Ethereum and Bitcoin. Nemi, I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you've talked with any of the Near founders in the past or what your take is on all this.
I mean, I don't have a take on all of this. The problem with projects like this is that there's so many projects out there, and I tend to get hesitant to look into projects where their marketing team has too many bots. And that's just from experience, because generally the ones with the bots and the hype around it tend to be the ones that don't have substance. I'm wondering whether, obviously, this isn't always going to be the case. And I'm wondering whether Near is actually an outlier of this and they just happen to have a lot of bots. So it's also an interesting project. So I have talked to some people who are like, yeah, this is kind of interesting. But the problem is I get bombarded with Near. Like they take over my threads on all platforms and they'll do things like, oh, I really like your work. Here's a really nice compliment for you. Also, I like your hair. By the way, can you cover Near protocol? And then they'll get like 100 likes on that comment. And then like 100 people responding who are like saying the exact same thing. It's always like compliment. And then, but it makes me so sad because I'll be like, the first bit, I'll be like, oh, they like me. And then there'll be another one that's exact same comment. I'll be like, oh, that's strange. And then there'll be 75 more exactly the same. And I'm like, they just want publicity. So it kind of makes me a little bit bitter when I like get bombarded with that, because it's like a kind of waste of my time, right? I'd much rather hear about the merits of the project. I'd much rather someone reach out and say, hey, this is interesting because they do X, Y, Z. And then I can like say, okay, that's interesting enough for me to look into it, given that there's so many projects out there. So I've got to be honest, the only looking into this that I've done is very cursory and asking some people who are involved in similar projects what they thought. They think that it's like a legitimate thing that, you know, could be something. It may not, but it could be, but it's not necessarily just like a hype project. So I will be looking into this, but I don't have anything that's going to be particularly helpful to this segment in terms of a take. But Jen, I'll throw it back up to you.
Yeah, I guess I just have a question for Will. As we move closer to Ethereum 2.0, or when we get there, what is that going to mean for all of these projects? I think they're like all really exciting and new because they offer solutions to a lot of the problems that we are experiencing with Ethereum. But then when we get to Ethereum 2.0, what's going to happen to all of these wonderful projects?
Yeah, I think that might be a question a lot of people have right now when it comes to looking at all these different networks. But I actually think that it is probably the wrong question, because the ETH2 is basically just kind of changing like the underlying structure of Ethereum. It's going to be like pretty boring. It'll be really interesting for developers. It'll be really interesting for people who have like a skin in the game and have been working on Ethereum for years. But they're trying to make it as seamless as possible. So Ethereum just keeps rolling as like the same network. But so the average user who has some tokens on Ethereum will just kind of keep plodding along. There is some work being done to kind of cheapen Ethereum, make it easier to transact on top of it, make it a little smoother ride. But I don't think it's going to necessarily, like ETH2 won't necessarily do that. It's a few years away to see some of those other changes. And for these platforms right now that are kind of competing to beat Ethereum, or at least be like second place behind Ethereum, I think what they bring to the table is just some optionality that you have, like other networks you can go to. Like Zach said earlier, if you want to swap some tokens or you want to get your money moving again, it's kind of tough on Ethereum right now. But really to like compare the two, I don't think there's much yet there. I'll say that'll be my thought for the day on it.